Hey, it's Sarah, and today we're going to be doing a late June tour of my Zone 7 Virginia garden. And I love this time of year. I mean, I love all the stages of the garden, but this is the time where things are really starting to take off and you're starting to see fruit coming on, and you can really see how much the plants have grown and changed from last month to this month. So I'm excited to show you how things are progressing. We've also had some things that haven't gone quite as well as I would have hoped, which is part of it, so I'll update you on those and how I'm adjusting and what I'm doing there. And I've also added some new plants since the last tour, so lots of fun updates. So I'm going to take you around and we can look at all the little different areas and see how the plants are doing. So to start things off, I know this doesn't look very exciting, but we're going to start here because this is kind of where we started last time. So if we look down at this bed, doesn't look like much is happening, but we have some cucumber starts going. So I put some seeds in here. I didn't have great germination. I put in some more, and now you can see we've got a couple coming up there. Got one there. For whatever reason, this hill, they all decided to come up, so I'm probably gonna have to thin a few of those. And then over here, nothing's really happening, but that's okay because, as they grow, they'll trail around this bed, so I can kind of direct some of these that were that did better than average in this spot to kind of trail this way, and I'm gonna be putting stuff for them to climb onto once they get a little bit of size. So, we could have cucumbers that are bigger by now, but I just happened to get these in the ground late, and that's totally fine. So they're growing, and they'll just keep getting bigger, and eventually we'll have some cukes growing here after they get some more size on them. And we kind of have a similar story happening in this bed, so let's come over here and look. So down here, we'll get in close. These are some Mexican sour gherkin cucumbers that I direct seeded. And these might actually need to be thinned too, but these are very small, little tiny cucumbers. They kind of look like little baby watermelons. They're super fun. And I have in the past started these in, seed trays, let them come up, and then transplanted them out. But this is my first year direct seeding. They're going, they're small. Same story, got these out a little late, but they're growing. So once these get some size, I'll put a tomato cage around these, one of the ones I use for a lot of things, which we'll look at here in a little bit. And you'll kind of see what I mean. But I'm going to put one of those here, and then they'll have something to climb on. I've also got some new friends over here that were not here last month. So these are a couple zucchinis that I seeded directly in the ground. And then up here on this corner of the bed, we have this yellow squash. So, no fruits yet. And again, we certainly could have them this time of year in my area. But it's also fine to start the plants now. And, they'll grow and they'll do just fine in this little spot. So the one thing I don't know is if this will be too crowded. Squash get big, and technically I can really only fit 2 in this area, but I always like to have more plants, so I don't know if I can kind of encourage one of these to come over out of the bed, maybe. This will be to be determined, so stay tuned. And then as far as other things in this bed, let's come around here and we can kind of walk up the middle path here. So we've got the Jimmy Nardello peppers on either side. They are, starting to put on some flowers. Let's see if we can get in close here and kind of see what's happening, if it will focus on the plant and not. There we go. So we've got some flowers, no peppers yet, but those are coming along. Those are a sweet frying pepper. And then we have my 3 eggplants here. And this is the first year growing eggplants. So these have really put on some size. And we do have flowers on these too. Let's see, you can kind of see there's one in there. So no fruits yet on these either, but they're working their way along and they're gonna get there eventually. I also put in some Thai basil here. You'll see as we go through, I had some extra basil starts that I just kind of need to jam in places. So these are small, but they are putting on new growth since I've put them in. So these should grow here and just, kind of fill in the area. So I'm excited that I was able to find a place to put those. Then on the edge here we have the okra. So these are getting some nice big leaves, and no flowers on these yet, but I am eager to see those because they should be really pretty. And this variety is a red okra. So you can see the stems are red, and then there's, this red veining here in the leaves. So if that's any indication as what the fruits are gonna look like, I think they're gonna be really beautiful. So I'm eager to see how those come along. Now, if we pull back from this bed a little bit, you can see the peas here in the background, and they have reached the end of their life. They've been good, but it's getting hot. They're getting some problems. They're near the end. So we'll go in close and I'll show you kind of everything that's going on with those. So the first thing is just the browning that's happening down here. I'm also getting powdery mildew. You can see that kind of white powdery stuff that's coming on them. They still are producing beans, or peas rather, but they're definitely not as sweet, more tough, and you know, they're just, it's just getting too hot for them. I also have had a couple issues, though they have been very productive, a couple things that kind of hampered them a little bit. So first off, you can see how they're all just like, let me back up from this angle, you can really see. They are all just flopped over, and if we go up a little bit, you know, up here is where the tops of the cages are, and they were growing up out of the cages. And then pretty shortly after the last month's tour, actually, because they were just getting started on fruiting a month ago, they were, you know, standing up nice and high, and then shortly thereafter that, a big rainstorm came through and just snapped them all over. And I was out here trying to tie them up. I thought they might just be dead. Because, you know, when something happens like that to one of your plants, when the stem is basically snapped and it's hanging over, you know, you just think like, oh, this might be the end. But as I was trying to pull them up, they were all kind of growing onto each other so much, it was near impossible. And I think that was part of the problem, is once one fell, it kind of took all of its friends with it, because they were all at the top there. They didn't have anything to grab onto, so they were all growing together. But they survived. They still kept producing peas. You know, you can't ever really know if maybe they would have produced more if that hadn't happened. And it was a little tricky trying to get under where it had flopped over and look for peas and stuff, but still very productive. We got a lot of snow peas and snap peas. We ate them a lot for snacks, used them in cooked applications as well, stir fries and stuff like that. And they were great. So I'm very, very happy with them, that despite, you know, that storm early on, they still did a really great job, and they were really beautiful as well with the different flower colors. Now, with that said, we have another problem that is not really affecting their production, but it does have me worried for what might happen when I pull the peas out. So if we look around here, let's see, kind of see all those little holes. Let's see if I can find another spot, kind of. I mean, there's some up here that are happening. Those are bites from Japanese beetles, and they are loving the peas. They haven't killed the plants, but there's a lot of them, and I'm out here like every day picking them off. Oh, there's one in here. Let's see if we can get this to focus on. Oh yeah, see them in there? Oh, they're flying past the camera. So that's what they look like. You can also look up pictures, but they are not native to this region, and they don't have any predators. So, you know, they can really kind of take over. So I've been picking them off by hand, but you know, there's always more out here. I don't know, they're just like multiplying. And I guess too, from what I've read, from, you know, where they have bit on the plant, the other bugs in the area can smell that, and then they start coming. And while it hasn't, you know, affected these, they're still putting out flowers, even though the fruits aren't, or the peas aren't tasting very good anymore. They're still growing, but I'm worried that when I pull this plant out, what's gonna happen? Are the beetles gonna be like, oh, our favorite food's gone, we're out of here? Or are they gonna start hitting, you know, all of our other plants? These are just a few here. I mean, they have eaten some on the eggplant. You can kind of see maybe that there's some holes in some of those leaves. But, you know, once these peas are gone, are they gonna hop over here? Are they gonna hop over to my other plants and then just kind of wreck the whole garden? I mean, just look at them in there. They're everywhere. Just like all clustered around. It's kind of creepy, honestly. So, if you have any thoughts on the Japanese beetles, definitely let me know. But this is going to be maybe something that we have to battle throughout the season. We'll just have to see. And once I do get the peas pulled out of there, I will definitely be putting something else in. Not sure yet what. I have a couple ideas, but there will be something else going in that spot once the peas are gone, so we can make sure that we're maximizing the space that we have. Moving on to other things, we have all of our containers here, so we'll just start with this one and work our way around. This is the one that has the black Hungarian pepper in it. Let's come around here like this. So this has those pretty purple flowers, and it has a lot of peppers. Let's see if we can find them all. So if we start down at the bottom, we'll try to get in here under the leaves a little bit. There we go. So there's one. That's the biggest one. And then as we come up, there's one there, kind of tucked in there. There's about 5 peppers on this plant right now. And they start off this, let's find the biggest one. They start off this like purple black color, and then as they ripen, they're supposed to ripen to kind of like a brick red color. And from what I've read, right now they are edible, but not that spicy. And then as they get more ripe, they will get spicier. So we're gonna hold off a little bit on these and let them get a little more ripe. But this is the pepper that's producing the earliest of all the plants I have. So maybe something to note if you're looking for something that will produce pretty quickly and you're trying to have a good mix of peppers in your garden. Over here, these are the fish peppers. Love this pepper, and you can really see now that the plants are getting bigger, the variegated foliage. Now they don't have any peppers yet, they're just starting to get flower buds down in there, but they're already putting on this beautiful display with all of the variegated foliage. And this one here has the most variegation and the most side branches. Look at all the branches that are coming off the side, which means more peppers, a sturdier plant. These two over here, not quite as much, but they still look really nice, and I'm excited to get peppers off of these. And then come over here, you can see the strawberries are doing great. We've got these planted all along these front beds. These are some more of those basil plants I mentioned that were like, you know, not planned for, just kind of started, and I need to put them somewhere, so those are in there. I've also put a Strawberry Fields Gomphrenia or Globe Amaranth in there. Very young starts. Just put one there and we'll see, hopefully it, you know, will take off and it'll go. And if things are a little jerky, please forgive me, because I just got a new gimbal. I'm using it for the first time and I'm kind of figuring out how to use it. So that's the situation. But here, this is a container that I have seeded some lime basil in, and it's just starting to come up, kind of get down in there. That's the biggest one right there. I've never grown this variety before. I thought it sounded fun. So we're putting this here, and then if we just come on around here like this, whoa, look at that. So you might remember I had some little lemongrass starts in here that were starting but not doing anything. These are not them. They were not growing. I don't know why. Sometimes that happens. So I just went and bought a lemongrass plant that someone else grew at my garden center that looked great. And it's already gotten so much bigger since I planted it like a couple weeks ago. And I mean, you can kind of get down in here. There's some thick stems down in there. So I'm excited. First time growing lemongrass. We're going to see how this goes. But I think this is a good lesson. Like, if something doesn't, you know, you start a plant or growing plant, doesn't work out. It happens to everyone. It's not a big deal. Just, you know, make a change. Put in some new seeds. Change your plan. Buy a plant. Whatever. You can always make those course corrections. Over here, this is a Filius blue pepper. First time growing this one. Jason picked this one out. The seed catalog. You can see it's kind of this little petite little plant. And go down in there. There are these little purple peppers that I think are supposed to ripen to various shades. So hopefully, you know, over time it'll kind of be like a bunch of different colors happening as they're in different stages of ripeness. But they're edible, but also decorative, kind of a small pepper. But, you know, we haven't grown this before, so don't really know what it'll taste like. But I'm excited to find out. Also have the hanging baskets up here. So this is another Filius blue. Because it's a smaller pepper, I thought it could be really nice for a hanging basket and something, you know, that will look decorative but also produce food. And then over here, these are nasturtiums. Now I have this mirrored on the other side, and I'll show you that in a second. This one did not have as good a germination. These two came right up, and then nothing. So then I put in some more seeds. Those two over there are starting to come up. The others are not, so I might just have to put more seeds in here. Don't really know why, but I'm excited because I'm hopeful that the nasturtiums, as they grow, will, you know, kind of overflow out of the basket. We'll have the pretty flowers and the leaves, and it's all edible, so it's going to be pretty, and it'll also be food. So now, looking at the other side here, just to kind of orient you, you know, here's the lemongrass. If we go and look down here, there's another one of those strawberry fields, Gomphrena or Globe Amaranth, still little, but I'm hopeful that they'll do well. Another basil variety, this is a purple basil that I put in here. And then, if we come up here, this is kind of what you saw on the other side. So another one of those Filius blue peppers, and then the nasturtiums, which over in this basket, they've done much better. They all came up, they look great, so that's a success. Strawberries over here are doing great. These ones are getting flopped on a little bit by the daylilies that we did not plant here, but they grow here. So one of the previous owners planted them. But I did want to show you, look, there's a little strawberry down in there. So I'm going to pick this one right now. Maybe I can share it with Jason. These were plants that we had salvaged. Oh, it's got a little hole, but that's okay. So, you know, we didn't really get a good crop off of them this year because they were kind of half dying. But they are still, now that they're getting established, putting out a few flowers, so we'll get a few strawberries this year. And, you know, they're all putting out runners, too. And we've got the other strawberry friends here. They're all growing. And then some more basil I threw in. This here is a tomato that I will call Candy Cherry because its name is something that means something different from when they named the tomato. I wonder if they'll rename it, or if they have. I bought these seeds a few years ago. But point being, we've got flowers. No fruit on this yet, but it is growing well. This down here is a black cherry. A little smaller right now, but flowers. And then over here we have a sun gold. And the sun golds are always the first, for me at least, to produce. And look at that. Look at all of those tomatoes. See if I like come around this way. Let's see. Yeah. It's a nice little truss of tomatoes. And if we go up a little bit, whoop, there's another one. And if we go up a little bit more, there's the beginnings of another one. So these are doing great. This tomato back here is doing okay. You know, no fruits over there yet, but we can just kind of continue along the line here. This is new from last time. I had this extra rosemary start, and I needed something to do with it, and I thought, you know what, it'd be really nice to have just a potted rosemary really close to the house in addition to the ones that I've put out in the landscaping, so that if we want rosemary, we don't have to like run out really far, we can just get it. So this is happy here. This I'm very pleased with. This is the orange tree, and we talked last time about how I wasn't sure if it was going to flower or what it was going to do. But since then, it has pushed out all of this new growth. See all that light green compared to like the darker green down here? This is all new, and it has put out flowers. A lot of them are gone now, but let's see if we can find one. Here we go. Here's one here. So that's what the flowers look like. So they pushed all these new leaves, the flowers, and now for the ones that kind of flowered and opened first, let me try to get in there. It's very small, so I don't know if you can really tell. Ooh, come on camera, there we go. So I'm guessing that is the fruit, because fruits come from flowers. So first time doing this, so we'll see, but I'm really excited because I wasn't sure if we were going to get anything. And then right next to it, this is like more than I could ever expect. There are 4 pepper plants in this pot. This is the Korean dark green pepper. I've never grown this one before either, and I am just amazed. Let's get in a little bit closer and you can kind of see. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell it's kind of hard to tell in person, but especially on camera. This here is one plant. There is so much branching going on. I've never seen so much branching on a pepper plant that I have grown, and all of them are doing it consistently. And, you know, no pruning, nothing like that. This is just how they're growing, and we are gonna get so many peppers as long as I don't kill them. These plants are going to produce so much, and I kind of don't even know. I mean, don't Don't count your chickens before they hatch, right? But let's just be excited for a little bit here and imagine what might happen if these keep going the direction they're going. I mean, yeah, from the top down, I feel like you can tell they're just like branching on branching on branching on branching. Flowers, flowers, flowers everywhere. It's mind-boggling. So stay tuned because I think these could be really something special. The one thing I don't know about is I feel like these might need some more fertilizer or, you know, a little extra care than some of the other plants. Because, you know, this is my first year doing this much food production in containers. So I don't have a lot of experience with that personally already. And then with the number of peppers that it looks like these plants are gonna put on, they might need some extra help in addition to the other plants. Because when you're growing in a container, all those plants have is whatever's in that container. And I try to set them up with some good soil and fertilizer and stuff going in. But these might need some additional feedings, I'm just imagining, because they're trying to produce so much. So that may be the one area for potential problems. But I'm trying not to think about that too much, like be prepared, but also getting excited because every day when I come out and look at these plants, I just can't believe how many branches they have. And so consistently is the thing. So many people like work to try to get their plants to do that, and these are just doing it all on their own. Continuing on with containers, we have 3 tomatoes here. They're doing great. We have a Beams yellow pear right there. This one is a blush pepper, and this one's a green zebra. And let's just get in here. These also are getting fruits. So you can see some there. Those little pear tomatoes, so pretty. And then if we come over to the blush tomatoes, look at that. Just seeing like that cluster of all of those tomatoes together, it makes me really excited for what's to come. More there. And then the green zebra, don't have quite as many yet, but if we come around to the side here, and let's see, try not to hit the camera and try to move these leaves out of the way. There's a couple coming in there, and even on this one you can really see the striping starting to come on. This is a green when ripe variety, and yeah, starting to look more like its adult version all the time. And then here we kind of have the mirror bed of that cucumber bed. This has a lot more going on, as is apparent. So we've got beans going all along the front here. I've got a wax bean and then like a green bean. These are both bush varieties, and you know, they look pretty good. We don't have any beans yet, but we are starting to get some flowers on some of these. So the beans are coming. We just have to wait a little bit longer. And then I have more tomatoes over here. These ones are not doing as well as the ones in the container, and I'm guessing it's just because they're in the ground. They don't have that, like, you know, super optimized soil going on. But up until this point, I've only grown tomatoes in the ground, so I'm sure they'll do fine. They're coming along. A few different varieties in here. I'll list all the varieties for everything I'm growing in the description of the video, so you can reference that for anything. But we've got a Japanese trifle black. I think this one's a Jean Flamme, or maybe a no, not a sun gold. It'd have some, I'm not sure. I've got it all written down somewhere. This one I think is a Jean Flamme, and these two are gold medal, which is my only large tomato that I'm growing. And those pots over there are not mine. They're ones I'm growing for other things. The one in the blue is actually for a nonprofit I work with for that garden. I'm kind of babying that pot a little bit at home. And then this one over here is some basil for my mom. So I need to take this over to her, but I kind of got it started for her so then it would, you know, be nice and lush and she can just enjoy it. But we've got a sweet basil, the purple basil, which I thought this was interesting. One of these seeds, I guess, like, is reverting away from the purple, or I don't know. I've never seen that, so that was shocking. And then this is some of that lime basil, which, like I said, it just seems to be a little slower, but there are sprouts in there, and you know, they're coming along. Just obviously a lot behind their friends. So that's the front yard garden. Now let's work our way around to what I call the kitchen garden. So here we are. Honestly, not too much to show in here, but there are some things. So Those Japanese red mustards that are down in this bed, there's a couple there. They're small. You know, the problem with the kitchen garden, this was here when we got here. It does get a lot of light. It's not the ideal place for a garden patch. Here are some radishes I try to grow here. They put on leaves, but the roots aren't really developing, so I think they just don't get enough sun. And then this is just like a weed situation. And these things, this particular weed grows here in this one bed, and the stem is spiky. Like, it has thorns on it. You can't really see, but if you try to pull one without gloves, or even with gloves, you'll know it. So I need to come out here and do some work, but I've kind of been not because they're annoying. Oh, they have flowers too. So if this helps anyone identify, it's putting on flowers. I don't know what it is. It doesn't grow anywhere else, but it loves this bed. On this side of the kitchen garden where it gets more sun, we do have some things happening though. So this is another sun gold tomato, like I said, in the front, first to produce. So we've got some tomatoes growing on there. So these are getting enough light to make tomatoes, but I'm interested to see how they do compared to tomatoes elsewhere in the garden as the year goes on. And then this is one of the birdhouse gourds, and it is reaching. So it's doing what I wanted it to do. I kind of wanted to go a little more this way, but maybe I can train it. But it is putting out its little tendrils, and it is grabbing on. Let's see if we can find a good one. Oh, right there. It is grabbing on there, and it is climbing. So there we go. Now you can really see. So that should just keep growing and hopefully even like flop over the top. We'll see how that does. And then if we swing all the way around, there's that bird bath that is still there because I haven't done anything with it. Real life. Here's some weeds that I pulled out of this bed, and then I was like, these things are sticking me, so I just dropped them and moved on to another project because I was getting annoyed. And then over here, these tomatoes, smaller, but also not sun golds. But I don't think they get quite as much sun because, hello, trees. These trees right here really shade it, and they weren't quite this bad when I planted them, but now that they've flushed out, yeah, these tomatoes are getting a lot less sun than they were previously. And you can even tell the difference here. This is the birdhouse gourd in this corner. Not as big as that other one, but still growing, so still might produce. We're just gonna have to find out. And you know, I definitely see this garden area as very experimental. I knew going in it doesn't get a ton of sun. It's not a great placement for a garden bed, but I'm just trying to see what are the limits, what is possible, and then I'll be able to readjust based on that in the future. So let's come out of here and we'll walk around to the other side of this bed where I have some other stuff growing. And this is what's happening here. So I did these lettuces in the front. We honestly haven't eaten these. They're just kind of half growing. They never got big enough where I felt like, oh, this is, you know, really doing something. I don't know if it's the shade. I don't know if it's because I planted them late. Might be a combination. A lot of things are going to flower. The arugula down here is going to flower. So not success, but not really super successful. So, you know, that's how it goes. The sorrel back here is doing its thing. We got the French sorrel on the back row. I've tasted a leaf, very lemony, and this is a perennial green. So it doesn't look like much now, but I'm hopeful that if we can get it established this year, it'll come back every single year and get thicker and thicker. And then the front, this is the red vein sorrel, and these are getting bigger. They were just barely little itty bits, but they're starting to come along, and I think they're so beautiful. I mean, just look at that. So pretty. And actually what is interesting is there is this like rogue one growing down here. And I don't know if like I accidentally dropped some seeds here or if we had a big rainstorm. So I wonder if some of the seeds like overflowed. I mean, these beds were flooded. We were hand pumping water out of them to save the plants from drowning. There was like a river in our backyard. It was a whole thing. But I'm just curious, like, how did you get here, friend? And like, you're growing, but whatever, the ones that I planted up here, because I planted a whole line, and it's like all those did great. Then there's this rogue one down here doing its thing, and then there is a little teeny tiny one coming up right here. So who knows? Now moving into the landscaped areas, come down the path here and take a look at this stuff. So here we have the lemon balm, looking good, growing in there. Doesn't get a ton of sun, but it seems to be doing okay. And then we have our thyme growing down here and trucks driving down the road that you can probably hear. These are, you know, getting established, looking good. And then if we come down the hill, we can check on the rhubarb. Now, some of the rhubarbs are doing better than others. So this one back here in the back, loving its life, putting out new growth. This one here, doing okay. This one here is not loving its life. I think I need to give this one a little TLC. It just has never put out new leaves, and now that one is dying. So we might have to baby this one a little bit, see if it can make it, because, you know, they really need to put on their growth now so that, oh, excuse me, so that they will make it through the winter, and, you know, come back next year. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on this friend. Rosemary down here, they're doing fine. They're branching, they're still small, but, you know, they seem to be getting happy. They're putting off lots of side shoots, bushing out to the sides and growing upward. And, you know, over time, as long as they stay happy here, they should really fill in this whole area, and it should be like a little rosemary hedge here. Got my fig trees. Still little, but still growing. There's one there, and then walk a little bit along, and here's its friend. So they're doing fine. Oh, if you want to see something interesting, check out this tree. So you might be able to see the blue ropes. This was like a beautiful, stunning tree. It's a red bud. It's Jason's favorite tree, I think, that we have. And it, we had that big rainstorm that I mentioned, and the tree was fallen over in the yard. And Jason and his dad tried to pull it back up, put its roots back in. It's like tied to two different trees by these blue ropes. You may or may not be able to see. And it's kind of a wait and see situation. Will it live? Will it not? Only time will tell. But on that note, let's make our way back up. And now we will go look at the beds that are out by the end of the driveway. Oh, side note on the way to the beds at the end of the driveway. This is this hydrangea here, which is massive. And it's not happening now, but I did post on my Instagram stories this video of this when it was just like all fresh blooms. There were bees everywhere. They love to get in here and like get on this little center part of the hydrangea. This is a hydrangea type that has like this kind of outer disc of flowers rather than the kind of puffball types that I think most people think of. But they were just all over the place. They loved this plant, which is so exciting to see. And like I said, not really happening now as the plants have matured a little bit. The flowers have matured a little bit, I should say, and don't, you know, have all that pollen. But this was like the bee hangout spot here a couple weeks ago. Okay, so these are the end of the driveway beds. I know it doesn't look too exciting. We've had some issues. The soil in here was not good. We got some stuff that they called compost. Here it is right here, actually. I dug it out. From the local like stone and sand place. The plants did not like it. They were not growing. So I had to do some surgery and kind of dig around and dig this out and put in some better soil. The tomatoes that were here, I just ended up pulling because they were just like so unhappy. We've got peppers down here that are yellow, not growing. So these are like a current project. I put on a fish-based, like fish emulsion fertilizer the other day. I'm gonna try to keep up with that. Hopefully they can take off. If not, we might have to abandon them and do something else. But exciting things. I know this looks like just dirt, right? But I planted some zinnias in here. And let's see, I think, oh yeah, there's one coming up. Let's work our way around. Oh, there's another one. So they're starting to come up here. And we're gonna have some really pretty flowers here. Look, there's another one. So I need to give some more water so more of these will come up. But things are happening. So it's not a loss. We're just gonna work with it. And similar things are happening over here. These tomatoes were not as sad, so I was trying to give them a little bit of, you know, a chance, but I think I'm gonna have to pull them. They're just not growing, even with the new soil. But then you get these two down here. They seem happy. They're putting on flowers. So I don't get it. I did the same kind of treatment for all of these to try to bring them back. These took off, the others didn't. And then, you know, if we come around here on the front, similar situation with the peppers and some cucumbers that I have out here. All of these are getting fertilizer, so we'll see if we can make them do something. And then there's this little thing out here, which I'm guessing is where our mailbox used to be. It's kind of a little down from this spot, but it's just here. So I planted some zinnias here as well, so hopefully we'll get a really nice flush right here. I did the Queen Lime Red zinnias in this bed. I don't know why I'm getting a close-up on the dirt. There's nothing to see. Oh, there are a couple starts over here. But then I did the Benary's Giant Zinnia mix in that other bed that I just showed you that had the sprouts coming up in it too. And you know, as far as the issues we're having in these beds, it's just part of it, you know. And I think this is something that, like, if we just planted these and I didn't have any experience, might be like, oh man, I can't grow plants. But based on knowing that I have grown plants before and all the other plants that are doing so great that we just talked about, you know, it just shows that there's so many different factors. You try different things. You know, I wanted to see if this would work. It ended up not working. We needed some better quality stuff, but you just figure that out. You do it, you try it. If you have to pull a plant out, you can put something else in its place. I'm just trying to be flexible and approaching it with a sense of curiosity and interest and trying to figure things out and not getting too down about the things that go wrong, because things do go wrong. They don't always work out. And that's okay, we'll just kind of work with it. So next up is something that I did not plant, but it's still food, and I think you'll be interested in it because of that, and that is wild berries. There's a car here, not sure what they're doing, but we're gonna talk about the wild berries. So we have two types of wild berries that are growing around here, and I'm gonna show you both of them, but they are fruiting right now and we're getting harvests out of them, and it's just like one of my favorite things. So these are the wine berries, and we are close to the road here, so hopefully you can hear me. But look at them. They're just everywhere. There's little fruits all over the place. I'm gonna come out here and harvest when I'm done filming this video. They are just happening. And we have, this is, I think, the biggest like single patch of a lot of plants in one place that we have, but we have little clusters all over the place that we go and pick from, and these are just so good. Let's find a really ripe one and we can pick it. Let's see. Oh, there's some kind of in here. See up in there? All right, let's grab one of these. So they're the type of fruit that has a hollow interior and then all these little clusters around it, which is a raspberry is like that. As you can see, bright red. And let's go ahead and do a little taste. I mean, I know what these taste like, but so good. They're sweet, they're tart, they're free, they grow. I don't have to do anything to them, they just grow on their own. So that's like all the best things in my book. So that's the wine berries, and then we also have blackberries, but they're in another area, so let's make our way that way. Here we are. This is the blackberry patch. We only have one really good blackberry patch, but look, oh, there's a lot of ripe ones. They came out here 2 days ago, and we got a few, and you can see how many unripe fruits are all around here. So we're gonna get a lot of these, but let's go ahead and pick one now. And so the blackberries, they have this like central core, which is different from the raspberry type fruit that has that hollow center. So sometimes you'll find black raspberries and people think they're blackberries, or, you know, how do you know which is which? If it's a blackberry, it'll have that central core part. And if it's a black raspberry, it's gonna be hollow in the middle. But let's go ahead and eat one just to be fair, and we can do it with the backdrop of the blackberries here. Also very good, definitely sour. I mean, a lot of times in general, wild fruits are more sour than cultivated varieties. The wine berries are pretty sweet. Blackberries, they're really sour, but they're one of my favorite things. this is like a little aside, but when I was a kid, one of my favorite memories was going out every summer around this time of year with my mom and my dad and my brother and picking the wild blackberries, because we had a lot of wild blackberries near my house, and we would get bowls and bowls and bowls, and we would eat them fresh and we'd freeze them. We make cobblers. It's one of my favorite food memories, one of my favorite memories, period. From growing up, and so it's something that I really treasure now, even as a grown-up. Every time I pick these, it just reminds me of that, and it's actually why the logo for Sarah Moran Nutrition is a blackberry. A lot of people think it's a bunch of grapes, which I can kind of see, and that's okay, but it really is a blackberry, and it's all based around that food memory that is so important to me. So if you didn't know, now you know. But those are the blackberries. Let's make our way back to the house now, and away from the loud trucks and stuff going down the road, and we can look at the containers I have growing on the back deck. All right, so I made it up here back to the back deck, and things are going really well back here, and I've also changed some things around since the last update. So here on this part of the deck, we have these two. So these are two more of the black Hungarians like I have out front. I put them in this container together, and they stayed in their starter cups a little bit longer, and as a result I feel like they're not as bushy as the ones out front, or the one out front, but they are putting on flowers and fruiting. So there's one there. I suppose I could try to like prune these back. I'm not too worried about it, but I do think they are going to need a stake because they're a little bit flopsy. Here is a purple bumblebee tomato growing. Up. And this one has some fruits on it, and the purple bumblebee has like a striping as well, so you can start to see. Ooh, focus on the tomato, not the leaves. This is the hard part. There's so much stuff going on, the camera doesn't want to focus on the right thing because it doesn't know what to focus on. Let's see this. There we go. So you can see some of the stripes are starting to develop there. And then if we work our way up, you know, there's more fruits coming on. And then if we look over to its friend, this is another sun gold. Fruit cluster there, fruit cluster there. And this one is already growing up out of the top of the cage. This is probably a 6 foot tall tomato already. So seems very happy in its container, which makes me very happy. And then moving up to the other part of the deck, I had to do some rearranging because we had a little bit of a change in our layout up here. So we got some patio furniture, which has been something that I've been wanting for a while, so we can sit out here and enjoy the outdoors when it doesn't feel like we're gonna melt out here, which it's starting to feel like now during the middle of the day quite a bit, but it's got covers on it right now. But because of this, I couldn't have as many pots out here because they were kind of encroaching and it was getting cluttered, and I moved some stuff out front, moved stuff around, and then I've added some new things too. So we'll swing around here. So let's start in the center here. So this is the basil planter. You might remember last time that the basil was not very happy, and I pulled out the starter seeds that I had seeded in here. I transplanted some starts that I already had, and these are now getting happy. They are putting on new growth, so I have Genovese basil there, purple basil here, and then Thai basil back here. And I did this kind of 3 basil planter last year, and I really liked it. And as you can see, you know, I showed earlier, I did one for my mom too this year. So this is actually starting to grow, and it smells so good. And I just love having fresh basil always available. Then we have the chocolate mint is down here. This was a little plant, so it doesn't have a lot going on, but it is putting out some new shoots all the time. And then let's move in here. This is new, so I planted this guy up with some dill seeds, and they are finally, oh, I hit the edge of the container. They are finally sprouting. So you can see them. We'll go up high like this. You can see all the little sprouts coming up there. These nasturtiums are not as happy as the ones out front. Not sure why. Maybe I need to give them a little TLC. Not sure, but this is the lemon thyme. That looks nice. And then this is all I have left that needs to be planted out still. I got a lot of the things that were here last month. They're in the ground now. But we've got creeping thyme here. And then the German winter thyme. is here, and then I have a za'atar oregano and Italian oregano, and there are several starts in these. They're finally getting a decent size. I think I want to put some of them out in front of where that rosemary is in the landscape, kind of in the front edge of that. And then I might also do some in containers, similar idea, like have some in the landscape, but also some close to the house that's easy to access. And then on the other side here, this is the new thing. So I added in this mint. I got this new pot and got a new mint plant. So this is called sweet mint, is what they call it at the store. I just bought this plant and it's so happy. And I have a mint plant, but I'll tell you, so if we swing over here, this is kind of the comparison. This is the old mint. This was one I got from the grocery store, you know, where they have those live plants you can buy. It's fine, but the leaves are a lot smaller, they're tough, and I don't think they taste as good. And then I had, you know, but I was kind of working with it, right? And then I bought one of these for my mom and planted it up for her. And it looks so beautiful, and it had these giant leaves, and she sent me pictures, and it was doing so well, and I was like, okay, I think I kind of want that for myself. So I've got this. I need to do some trimming on it and use some of it, because you can see it's kind of all flopsing out everywhere, but it already looks so much happier and more like what I want. So this, I'm going to say goodbye to this friend, and then I can use the container for something else. And then here is the parsley. This is, you know, there's a big flower up here. Things are really starting to bolt. I trimmed out like half of it to use, I don't know, not that long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, and it's already sending up new shoots. So I think I'm gonna try to keep like cutting and see if it continues to resprout and how long that goes for. I've never grown parsley with this success before. So, you know, I'm kind of just seeing what it likes, seeing what happens. The other thing is that in both of these pots, there is perilla or gnit coming up, and the perilla that I planted would not germinate. I bought new seeds. I just wasn't having any luck. I don't know if I wasn't keeping it moist enough. But then there's some that is sprouting here, because I think this was next to the pot that I grew the perilla in last year. And you know, those plants put on seeds and everything. So you can see those in there. So I think I'm going to try to transplant them out into the pot that I want to have the perilla in. I guess I could also just leave them in here and just pull the mint out around them, but I don't know if they'll like that, and that other pot is larger. And I think I have seen some down, oh yeah, you can kind of see there's one right there, kind of tucked in there in the bottom. So a little surprise, you know, sometimes the plants that you want to grow won't grow, but then the other plants just want to grow on their own. And I think it's just so funny how that happens. Like here I am, like buying new seeds, trying to water the seeds multiple times a day to keep them moist. I soaked them beforehand, doing all this stuff to get the perilla to grow. And then these seeds over here that I haven't even tried to do anything with are like, we're here, we're happy, we're fine. But that's just how it goes sometimes. And we love those volunteer plants in our garden, right? Because if something wants to grow on its own and I don't have to plant it, like, that's fine with me. We'll just work with it. So that's what we have going on in the garden right now. I also did plant out the raspberries and blackberries. Those are in the ground. Not too much to see though, because those plants are so small. So they're not much to look at. But I'm hopeful that they'll grow. Fingers crossed. Hopefully next month they'll be bigger. Jason ran over a couple of them with a lawnmower the other day, I think, because he couldn't even see them. But they look like they're doing okay. So we'll see what happens there. I'm not sure if they get enough light where I put them. But I'm overall really excited about how things are going. Like I said, we're getting at that time where things are really about to pop. You can see all the tomatoes that are setting up. And, you know, once those start to ripen, we're just going to be like, you know, this time next month, I think we're going to have so much production. The beans have flowers, the peppers, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to see how things progress this year. And let me know in the comments, how are things going in your garden? What are you growing? What is doing well, maybe not so well? I love to hear all those things. And if you have any tips on any of the things I talked about in this video that are kind of plaguing me a little bit, or, you know, any experience with some of these plants that I'm trying for the first time, would love to hear that as well. And I hope just overall that your gardening adventures are going well if you are gardening at home. But that's it for this update. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!